of the attachment that included the amounts. It didn't print out the first time. The next one is addition to business to discuss expenses that were occurring during COVID meeting procedures. And the 14, there was part of the Enbridge correspondence that was omitted in error. Does anybody have any comments on the agenda and addendum? If not, could I have the approval of both, please? Can I see all hands? Okay, everybody's in favor. Thank you very much. Just as opening remarks, I want to remind you that we've got an incredibly full agenda, and although we'll be going into quite a long closed meeting, we are going to come out of closed to deal with a couple items in open after the legal discussions in closed. I do want to remind you that we're live on YouTube, so we have an audience. We did last time, and you use your little blue hand to signal that you'd like to speak. I'd like to remind you that we've just gone into phase 2 of the provincial opening, and our staff is working around the clock to comply with the new provincial directives. We need more signage. We will have an update for you on what's happening with the Rossall market when the CAO gives her report. It's a busy, busy time as we move into phase 2 of the COVID. So your patience is much appreciated. And before we begin the formal part of this meeting, I'd like to honor and thank our community partners of the First Nations, the Anishinaabe. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof? Councillor Fellner, yep. Can you unmute?
Yes. I wish to declare a possible conflict of interest. I may have a conflict of interest, pecuniary interest related to the following matters. Council meeting agenda item 6B, accounts B, payment to Wayne Hall Construction as the party is my employer. Council meeting agenda item 7D, report number PWRD 2020-012, contract number 2020-013, granular for Turtle Lake Road as one of the bidders. Wayne Hall Construction is my employer. And council meeting agenda item 15D, Hall Construction, Hall Quarries, Turtle Lake Road as the party is my employer.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We have, can I have a motion? I'll do what I've done before and try and remember all of the wards in order. Could I have a motion from Ward 1? This is to adopt the minutes. Ward 1?
I so move.
And seconded by Ward 2?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Is there any discussion or comments on the minutes? Okay, that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby adopt the minutes of the regular and closed session meetings of Council held June 1st, 2020 as circulated. Are there any comments? All in favor? Oh, sorry, is that a question? Or, sorry, Councillor Mock?
It is, sorry. And I just wanted to go back to our earlier meeting today on the official plan. I think the minutes reflect what was intended in terms of the appointees. And I think we cleared that up earlier today. But I think, I didn't see a copy of the letter, but I believe that the letter may have muddied the water a little bit. But I think, like I said, I think the minutes reflect what was agreed on in terms of primary and secondary wasn't an issue, or roles or anything like that. But so I think that's correct, but I just wanted to make that comment.
Well, I thank you, and I think that you'll see either Marissa or Michael clarifying it when they circulate the web invitation, because there seems to still be some confusion, so we'll clarify that everybody can attend the meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Okay, thank you, that's carried. Marissa, are you there? Marissa from Skelton Bromwell is our first delegate. There you are, Marissa.
Hi.
Hi. I think all of us met Marissa when they presented before. She's our lead communications contact at Skelton Bromwell. So I'll turn the meeting over to you, Marissa.
Okay. Hi. Thank you, everyone, for having me. I'm here to share the official plan review public launch. So tomorrow we will be officially launching the Seguin official plan review website. With your approval, I believe that last week or on June 1st, there was a presentation shown to you, giving you some designs. Just, did everyone see that? Okay. So today, I'm not sure if the clerk has my Gantt chart that I was going to show during this presentation, but on track for our...
Marissa, it's on page 15 of the agenda package if everybody wants to look at it.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So we are on track for the work plan that we have assigned, and basically some things that we did roll out this morning, that we did figure out this morning, that need to be added onto the website, which weren't shown at the meeting on June 1st. Mayor would like to add the current strategic plan to the website, so we will be doing that. And we will be also adding some clarification on the differences between the official plan and what a zoning bylaw is. So it'll be really simple for people to the difference for that. And I think that's, if you guys are have any questions for me about the website design, it'll really be a huge part of our public consultation and our public engagement, since we're not sure how long COVID is going to last. So it's important that we showcase the website on all social forums that Seguin, well, so that everyone knows what the website is and how to access it.
I think there's a question from Councillor Moffat.
Okay.
Marissa, just for the benefit of those that weren't in attendance, maybe you can just quickly explain how the public consultation process is going to take place in the COVID-19 world, how it was described this morning, so that these, when individuals, residents speak to the councillors, they can at least communicate, what to look for or how to get involved, as opposed to, attending the meeting at the hall type of thing.
Right. So right now we're planning on having a lot of our open houses being a longer period of time. So instead of just being one time on one date, it will be for a period of time. Participants can comment on our forums. They can do surveys. They can view calendars. They can submit comment forms, and it'll be more of a continuous conversation rather than just one day at one time. One thing that I find in the process that's very effective, that we will be using in this official plan review, as well as in the past we've used it, is a forum. So people will be able to make a comment or ask a question, and live time people can sort of go back and forth and create a conversation. There will be some, there will obviously be some guidelines on how to use this forum obviously we want to have respect for people on the forum, and because it is open to the public, we will have a little precursor that'll say, you know, these are the types of comments that we're looking for, but it really leaves it open to a good discussion for everyone. So that'll be happening. And then the public meeting, because it is happening in the winter of 2020, we're not sure how that's going to go. We're not sure if it's going to be in person or not. But there are ways to do webinars where we can have sort of this similar type of people can put their hands up to make comments, and we can have a Zoom call up to, I believe Zoom lets you have up to 200 people. And if there's more people that sign up for it, then we can have multiple. That's fine as well.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Marissa? Nope.
Okay.
Councillor Collins, have you got a question?
Yes, I do.
Could you please, in future, I just saw you trying, but in future, please use the little blue hand so I can.
I'm trying to find that little blue hand, Mayor. Sorry, it seems to hide on.
Go to participants.
Yeah, that's where I am, and I'm looking for the. Oh, there. It's always okay. It's
Okay,
always
go
where it's
ahead.
supposed to. Yes, Marissa.
Yes.
You mentioned there's going to be 4 public forums.
4.
And I'm just looking at your sheet here, and could you tell? I can see where the final council, or I can see the final public meeting in the winter of 2020. Just point out where the other 3 are.
Okay. So we have the final one is in phase 4, item 1.
Yep, I see that, but where are the other 3?
Okay, so, well, the first one that we had was with the steering committee today. So that would have been phase 1.
Okay.
And there's no specific date actually, but it's number 5. Basically, that's today. And then the second one is number 5 in phase 2.
August 24 then will be the first.
Yes.
Yeah. Gotcha. Yep.
And then the following is phase 3, item 2. So fall 2020, and then winter 2020.
Okay. 1. So today was counted as 1 then.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Any other questions for Marissa? Okay, thank you very much, Marissa. We'll look forward to hearing about the website tomorrow.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, you got a motion for me? Okay. Can I have a motion from Ward 3 for the accounts?
So moved.
Thank you. And seconded by Ward 4.
Seconded.
Thank you. That the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby approve the accounts in the amount of $307,429.37. Are there any questions? Do you have a question, Councillor Moffat?
Yes, this is a question for Mr. Koppisch. So maybe I'll just give him I know he's listening, but I was just looking on page 21 of the accounts. Wanted to confirm, we had talked about some work with regards to the Rose Point Trail a few weeks back. And I just wanted to confirm whether that work that was done by Hard Rock Excavation was related to that, or is it something different?
No, it's related to the drainage in the trail. That's exactly what we're doing. We got approval to manage the water levels of the ponds to prevent flooding of the trail from the MNR, and we proceeded to do that.
Okay, so the work that we talked about a few weeks back is still to be done completely different than Peter.
What's that?
The work that we discussed about the Rose Point Trail a few weeks ago.
What work is that? Which work are we talking about?
When we had that easement, we had approved an easement on the Rose Point Trail.
Oh, sorry. That is underway. The final legalizing is coming to fruition, and that's going to start on on July the 15th is when the permit starts. And
okay.
We'll get to the contractor will be ready, and we'll have agreements in place for them to start that work starting on July the 15th.
Will there be an impact to the trail as a result? In terms of it closed or deviated?
It depends on exactly when he's going to do the work. There will be some impact to it for access, I believe, because there'll be some heavy equipment moving in.
Okay.
But that will be determined once we know his timeline.
Okay. Thank you.
Linda. Thank you. Any other questions on the accounts A? All in favor? Thank you. That's carried. Okay. Could I have a motion by Ward?
Sorry, Mayor, I had one question I forgot.
Oh.
Page 20.
Can we do this? Can we go back after we've approved it?
Well, it's just a question. It's not going to affect the approval. But just under recreational facilities, there's an expenditure for Orkin Canada, pest control.
Yeah.
I just noticed that the total budget amount is around 29 and change for the year, and 25, almost 26 has been spent already. I'm wondering what's happened that we've spent most of that pest control budget already.
I'm going to ask our treasurer to reply to you.
Well, Dominic may have a better answer.
Michelle will answer.
Actually, on that report, Rod, that's how much is left in the budget. Year-to-date balance is a little bit of a misnomer. That's how much is left.
$19,000 left.
Not how much is spent.
Oh, so that's unspent year-to-date. I figured it was be spent figures. We do it reverse. Okay, thank you. Thank you. That's all.
Okay, could I have a motion from Ward 5?
Yep, I so moved.
And seconded by Ward 6?
I second that.
That the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby approve the accounts in the amount of $9,122.91. Are there any questions on accounts B? All in favor? Thank you. And that's carried. Okay, this is a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby receive the staff reports as presented on the agenda for the June 15th, 2020 meeting of Council. Could I have a motion from Ward 1, please?
I so moved.
Thank you. Seconded by Ward 2.
I'll second that.
All in favor of receiving the staff reports? Thank you. Oh, I should read this and then get the motion?
It's for the next one, short term. But before they discuss, you should get.
So I should read the motion?
They get their names, sorry, yes.
Okay. So I need a motion. Can I have it from Ward 3? Osborne? Okay.
So
I'm going to remind you to use your little hand if I can. Seconded by Ward 4?
Seconded.
Okay. That the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby receive staff report number DPS-PL-2020-054 short-term cottage rental accommodation discussion attached to Schedule A to this resolution. And the Council does hereby approve the regulatory option as outlined in 4.0 of the report as a draft regulation to be presented to the public for public consultation. and that further, that council does hereby authorize and direct staff to initiate the community engagement strategy as outlined in Schedule A of the report. And you will notice that we have Mr. Longo on Zoom with us. Welcome. So is there any discussion about the staff report?
Question?
Okay, I need to see your little blue hand, but I'll go ahead on this one and then figure out your little blue hand in.
I gotta find my little name first. There we go.
Go to participants.
I know. I'm there. I just gotta find my name in this long list of people.
Okay.
So, question, Mayor. At the last meeting of council, we had a draft bylaw before us, which had been put together by Mr. Longo and Steve. And at that time, we had councillors saying, no, we can't go to the public with this, even though we kind of came to agreement on it at one point. Then we asked Steve to go and do a public engagement strategy. And what I see from this public engagement strategy is that we're going to put this out to public. What we decided to put together as a draft, and I don't know what's changed from last meeting other than the fact that we had Steve put in writing that he's going to go to the public, which we knew anyway. So where are we going on this? Can we not just get this thing done, move on, get the draft out, and let the chips fall where they lie and get this thing done? I'm getting really frustrated with the delay on this thing, and I'm sure others are too. Just my opinion.
Okay, Councillor Collins. Councillor Collins,
Yes.
do you have a hand up?
Yes. I basically like the proposed definition now that it is written the way it's written. I happen to agree with Rod getting this moving along a lot more quickly. We only have 4 summer meetings left, and for one, I would like to get public opinion and get their input as soon as possible before the fall, when the majority of our citizens leave to their fall and winter residence. So the way it's written now, there has been changes since our last meeting, and I'm very happy with what I'm reading here and how it's put together. So that's where I stand right now. I'm very happy with what I see. Thank you.
Thank you. I think I see Director Stone on the screen. Steve, do you want to talk about the timing of your community engagement a little bit?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. To the rest of council, yes, if council wants us to launch the engagement process, we would start that tomorrow by posting it on the website and sending out, have JJ send out a communique saying it's now open for comment, and Adam and Lauren would be prepared then to start tabulating the responses and putting them into a spreadsheet. And as the comments come in, we'll sort of give a holistic review of them and try and categorize them the best we can. And we can update council as council sees fit in that regard. But
begin tomorrow.
Yeah,
I think Councillor Fellner has a comment.
Yes, I like this document. I think it's sort of getting to sort of where we think this thing maybe should go. I had a question for Mr. Longo, though. So, assuming that this document passed pretty much in the form it's in, just assume that for the time being. Your opinion for prosecute, if in fact we determine someone's doing short-term rentals in the township and we decide to charge them under the bylaw, educated opinion, how easy is it going to be for us to prosecute these people? Is it, and the ease, of course, will determine the expense of it.
Councillor, are you referring to under the current bylaw wording or as the bylaw wording that is contained in the draft version that
No,
put together?
yeah, pardon me, the wording that's contained in your draft.
Yeah, my sense is that that will be sustained in court as being an appropriate exercise of zoning powers, and my opinion is it would be upheld in court. So anyone challenging it, I believe we can resist that challenge. And with respect to enforcement, I believe the municipality should succeed in being able to successfully enforce instances of infractions to that bylaw as drafted.
Okay, and second question then, penalties for breaching this bylaw, is this something we are able to set prior to it, or is this something the court sets, or how does that work?
On the enforcement?
Yes.
We would take charge of enforcing, and then it's up to the court to consider the prosecution that we would pursue, and hopefully agree that the case has been made out that a bylaw has been, there has been an infraction. And at that point, the court would then have its powers under the Provincial Offences Act, not only to punish by way of a fine, but also has the residual power to order compliance to the bylaw. But it is a court matter, and depending on the justice sitting that day, you may or may not succeed, and sometimes that's why we have appeal courts to correct those kind of decisions. But my sense is, based on my experience with STA law in Ontario, that what's being proposed should withstand any challenge, and we should be able to enforce that bylaw should the circumstance arise.
Okay, so then just for just out of your experience, the cases that have been successfully prosecuted to date in the province, what kind of a deterrent did the courts award to these?
Based on both Ontario Municipal Board decisions, which is now, of course, the Local Planning Appeal Tribunal, and court decisions from those OMB decisions, I believe the court has made it clear that the regulation of a short-term accommodation use is a valid exercise of zoning power. It's not people zoning. It's defining a discrete use, commercial use, and saying that discrete commercial use cannot take place in certain zones. And based on what I've seen from both the OMB and the courts, they will treat a properly worded zoning bylaw in that fashion and uphold it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Councillor Moffat.
I think what Councillor Fellner wanted to know is the dollar amount of the fine expected from the court, or do we set that from the municipal level?
Maybe I can ask the clerk or Steve to address that, but I believe your zoning bylaw may have infraction provisions in it, and if not, then it's just the Provincial Offences Act that applies. And under the Provincial Offences Act, it can be up to, oh goodness sakes, I don't know, is it 50,000 or 100,000? I mean, it's not what you would ever expect on a first offense. But normally what you're looking for is compliance with the zoning bylaw. And the goal is not to make this a revenue generator for the municipality, rather to create a zoning provision, which we believe will result in proper community planning and compatible uses. So I think it's more compliance than convictions as to what we're looking for and what's motivating staff in moving this forward.
Okay, so I think in other, and we'll touch on this on the next one with regards to setting fines, if I understand the process correctly, is that we establish the fine, we send it into the courts for their review, they then bless it or say, look, you're out of line, redo it, and then once that's established, if we had to go to the provincial offenses, then we would have a different ballgame.
Sure.
That wasn't my question, but so my question is actually on the general provision with regards to the occasional use or accessory use. Chances are that's where it's going to be the most, I think it's safe to say that the commercial side of things, we've probably, put the hammer down, and through our other means, it's really going to be on the occasional use that people are going to try to, wiggle through or wiggle out of or whatever. And I guess what I'm worried about is staff having to run around the township to, see if, collect information as such in order to see whether someone is limited or occasional use of the cottage. And I'm just wondering if we're going down that route, how successful we would be at court in terms of evidence on that item. Like that to me is a harder case to probably make and longer costs and everything else, as opposed to on the commercial side of things. And I just wanted to see if you have a view on that life.
I do. One of the features that we've incorporated into the draft bylaw is to allow for the occasional rental of a cottage and not have it constitute an STA, short-term accommodation use. And one of the ways we do that is we define an STA use as either using a property or offering a property for use as a short-term rental. What we would anticipate is that for most cottagers wishing to, on occasion, rent to a family member or a friend, they're not internet advertising the availability of the cottage, and they're just doing it word of mouth with a family member or friend. And that is a different scenario than a property that has an internet presence where people can book a year in advance, and it's clear that the property is not being used at all other than for the short-term rental use. So we're trying to draw that distinction. We think we've come up with a pretty good one, but obviously it can be improved through the public process and input from you councillors. And we would hope to get that public input and council input as we move forward. But I think we are trying to strike what we think is a fair balance. With respect to the second part of your question about evidence before the court and enforcement, most of these things tend to be complaint driven. And yes, we'll have to have enforcement officers go out, interview people, understand what the situation is, and then that becomes the evidence that you take to court. So your case is only as good as the evidence that you present to the court. So I'm hoping that bylaw enforcement will, especially on the first couple of matters that they do think they're going to a prosecution, will just do a bang up job to make sure that we have all the facts we need in order to convince the court that there indeed has been an infraction.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know if you people are taking your little blue hands down when you finish, but I still have a hand from Councillor Collins. Do you have a further question, Councillor Collins? You're on mute.
No, I'm, like I said before, this proposed definition is what we've been all waiting to see. And I'm ready to move ahead. No problem.
And Councillor Osborne, you still have your blue hand up.
Sounds good.
Not still, again. Another question for Leo, if I may. Mr. Longo, so we're all pretty much aware that this will be complaint driven. We don't have the staff to go around and police the township. On a complaint, you mentioned that our bylaw staff would have to do a bang up job of collecting evidence. Therefore, those staff would have to be trained in what to look for or how to question a tenant or a landlord, whatever be the case. Would the onus be on the township, once a complaint is received and a charge is being laid, would the onus be on the township to prove that this was indeed a commercial rental with money changing hands or through a website? Or would the onus be on the renter, the landlord, to prove that it was not?
Councillor, it's the former, that the initial burden of proof is on the municipality.
Okay.
But once sufficient information is presented to the court, that onus shifts to the landowner to then have to positively say, here's my defense to this. But initially, like all bylaw infractions, it would tend to be one that we would need to at least establish a prima facie case of infraction.
Good, thank you. That's what I thought.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Cole.
And my question, I'm happy with what we're proposing to the public at this point. My question is about the engagement strategy, and the question is for Steve. I don't understand the tabulation, how that works. You got 4 themes, and you have the same words like noise in theme 1 and theme 2, voting in theme 3 and 3. I don't understand how the tabulation works. Can you explain that to me?
Yeah, that's just to say that there could be many, many more columns in that. But typically, what the tabulation would do is to, if somebody writes in and comments, we'll tabulate whether they're for or against or would like some sort of modified regulation to be enforced. We'll also tabulate what their concerns are. If they're, for example, against something because they have a neighbor who's too noisy, or they're afraid for water quality issues, or nuisances on the lake, on a quiet lake, because people are running around in Sea-Doos and making too much nuisance of themselves. So we'll sort of list what their concerns are, pro or against the regulation. So as I said, as they identify something new that doesn't fit into the obvious, like a noise complaint, we'll spread that sheet out more so you get a sense of where, is it a social concern that they have? Is it a property rights concern, that sort of thing? And we'll spread them out that way.
Okay, thank you. That's good. Thank you.
If I may, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Moffat comment. Provincial offenses, our bylaw at this point doesn't have a set fine structure. So that would defer back to what Leo was saying, that it would be something that would be established through the Planning Act. So there is a fine structure within the Planning Act, and Leo's right. And I think I mentioned it a while back that first offense can be $50,000. If it's a corporation like Serenity Vacations, it would be $100,000 maximum fine. So again, Leo, if he was to prosecute, would pitch to the courts what he think would be a suitable fine, and then it would be up to the judge to a fine within the tolerances established in the Planning Act.
Councillor Fellner, you still have your hand up? You're on mute, Councillor Fellner.
Yeah, no, it gets hidden under that mute sign. Sorry, Ann. Okay.
Just a couple comments from me. Steve, I like your public consultation document. One thing I would like you and Lauren to add is that it go out to all of the lake associations for distribution to all of their members, so that that's another whole way to get information out. They're doing spring newsletters and dock drops now, so I think we need to include that as part of the public consultation, just as extending our reach.
Yes.
Sure, go ahead, Steve.
We certainly have quite an extensive mailing list, and certainly the lake associations are on that, so certainly we'll send it out to them for their dissemination as well.
Great. And for Mr. Longo, I have a question for you. This is going out for public consultation. I can't see us having a bylaw set in stone for several months by the time we tabulate and do all our public consultation in the world of COVID. So I ask you, if we have an overt offender now, should we be prosecuting on our existing bylaw?
That's a decision for council, but if they choose to do so, I would not be hesitant to pursue that in the court. I believe that the interpretation that we provided to council originally, that dealt with the definition of dwelling unit as in meaning domicile of those using it, is sufficiently strong to seek an enforcement prosecution. So if council were so inclined, I don't think you should feel that you need to sit back while you're going through this process. And recognize, council, that once you have the public process, and if it does lead to an amending zoning bylaw, that itself can be appealed to the tribunal, and the tribunal is booking dates into 2021 right now. So you may find that you might need to take some action in that interim period.
Okay. Thank you very much. Any further questions for Mr. Longo or Director Stone? Okay, we have a motion on the floor, moved by Rod Osborne and seconded by Terry Fellner. All in favor of the motion? Thank you. That's carried. Thank you very much, Mr. Longo, for all your time and patience with this council as we've struggled through this issue.
It's good seeing you all face to face, and I look forward to the next time we can do it. Bye for now.
Thank you very much for your time. So this is the bylaw related to prescribing times and setting fires. So I'll ask for a motion from Ward 3, please.
So moved.
Okay. Seconded by Ward 4. Thank you. And I'll read the motion. That bylaw number 2020-058, being a bylaw prescribing times for setting fires, precautions to be observed, and penalties for contraventions, and to repeal bylaw number 2005-052, is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. And I'll ask our fire chief, Don Hood, to appear before count. There he is. Does anybody have any questions for Don? Councillor Osborne, yes, you have a question?
Yeah, I'm struggling with my blue hand there. There it is.
Okay.
So, Don, when did we first discuss this? Going back, this fireworks ban. Was it last fall?
Yes, it was last fall.
Okay, and I see here that we don't want to move on this right now because we're waiting for another township, McDougall, to send their submission to the courts for review. Is that a 6-month process?
No, that's already been done. Last fall,
why are we
said McDougall will send theirs in, which was basically a copy of our bylaw. What they had in theirs was exactly what we were looking for. So they submitted theirs and it was passed. So ours is a carbon copy of theirs.
So are we in a position now to pass our bylaw banning fireworks and a fire hazard rating?
So what's being asked today, the courts, in this case, the lawyer that was actually overseeing reviewing the bylaw, I contacted her through McDougall, and we have to send her a bylaw that's been certified by council. She then, in turn, the judges are working from home. She then will submit it to the judge that covers this area, and he'll put his stamp of approval on it because she's already passed it, and we'll be good to go.
Okay, so we're going to be in a position. My question was, we're going to be in a position today to pass this bylaw, and then let it go through the courts as you mentioned.
Correct. The bylaw will not be in effect today.
That's fine.
But it will be in process with the court.
So we're taking the first step here in doing this.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Moffat.
Sorry, Don. Just so given that we've moved things along, when do we anticipate hearing back, or do you have a sense as to when we would hear back so that it would be in place? Is this, and maybe that's sort of to Councillor Osborne's question, given that McDougall's done all the work, has taken 6 months or 7 months or whatever, are we looking at a 1 month turnaround maybe, or a 5 month turnaround? Do we have a sense as to when that would be?
My sense, Councillor, from the lawyer that I spoke with, again, everyone's working from home, which I think will slow it down. But the normal process, which McDougall had to go through, was they submitted a draft. She sent it back to them. They made some changes. She sent it back to them. All that's all that's done. So the sense that I heard from her, she wouldn't give me an actual timeline, but she said, basically what's different is the name at the top of the page. And the territory that the judge that looks after, she will forward it to him and with an explanation, basically saying, this is a carbon copy of McDougall that was passed in such and such a time, and we're good to go. That would be her recommendation, she said. So I honestly, I would assume we're talking probably weeks, not months.
So just as a follow-up, maybe, and I'm asking for the balance of council, maybe an update in a couple weeks or 3 weeks, just to know whether we have a longer period, given that we're into July, in that time frame, as to where fireworks will happen as opposed to November.
That's a fair question. And when I submit possibly tomorrow by email, she wants it all by email once it's been passed, and I will ask that question if she could give us, now that she has it in her hand, could she give us a timeline?
Okay, thank you. If that's okay with you, Mayor.
Yep. Councillor Osborne.
Thank you, Mayor. Don, one further question. Did we go over the hurdle of the lighter than air incendiary lantern that we don't want to call by any country, that issue? Is that still an issue, or did we get by that PC stuff?
The issue of a Chinese lantern versus a sky lantern, it's the same thing. And actually, if you do any research at all on Chinese lanterns, it's quite an honor for them. Lanterns have been in their world for thousands of years.
Yes.
And when you buy, it's not a hit against that type of individual at all. They are quite proud of the fact that they supply the world with Chinese lanterns.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Being no further questions, all in favor of this bylaw? Thank you. That's carried.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Don. Okay, we are moving into, what item is this? 8.
Or sorry, we missed Michelle.
We missed something. We missed the current projected impact of COVID. So this is Corporate Services C, this treasurer, with her treasurer hat on.
Yeah, this is just a summary of a lot of the cost savings, the lost revenues, the extra expenses that we've seen to date. It can change at any time, but this is what we're projecting right now, and as I mentioned to council previously, it's really looking like a wash, the township in 2020. There are some expenses that we're still going to be looking at, things like hydro costs, cost of cleaning, that we'll be able to provide more information on as we get through the summer.
I think it's pretty comprehensive, and it, as Michelle says, it's changing by the hour.
So, for example, you'll see that we did get some savings under our employee benefit plan for 2 months' worth of refunds. We were just notified that we're going to get another month's worth of refunds on our next billing. So,
Councillor Moffat.
So this covers, Michelle, our operating revenue and expenses. What about capital projects? Everything is moving forward from that perspective, and there's no COVID-19 implications for any of the capital in any of the departments?
Yeah, right now the capital projects are all going ahead as planned.
Okay. Excuse me, in all departments. Sorry, you said yes?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't hear you. Okay, thank you.
So that's
Somebody. Okay. Thank you very much, Michelle, for the summary, and we will stay on it. I know your monthly reports start when? July?
They'll start at the next council meeting.
Next council meeting, so you'll start to see bits and pieces of where we sit versus budget, just as a regular agenda item. So thank you very much for doing this. Okay, now we're moving into the shore road allowances. Council will now consider the following road allowance applications. Shore road allowance application number RAS-2018-0017-F and RAS-2018-0018-F for McDowell, Otter Lake, bylaw number 2020-049, and concession road allowance application number RAC 2018-0020-F for McDowell, bylaw number 2020-050. Have there been any written objections received related to any of these applications?
No written objections have been received.
So I have the bylaw here. Could I have a motion by Ward 5?
I so move.
Thank you. Seconded by Ward 6.
I second.
Okay, so I did the bylaw. That bylaw is number 2020-049 and 2020-050, being bylaws to close, stop up, and sell portions of original shore road allowance and original road allowance, application numbers RAS-2018-0017-F and RAS-2018-0018-F and RAC 2018-0020-F for McDowell are hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. All in favor? Thank you. That's carried.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
did we not skip item? Hold on.
Yes, we did, and I'm sorry you
Item
missed.
7D.
Yes, we did, and it was discussed when you were not in presence. We're going to discuss the legal correspondence related to that item in closed, and then come back to 7D.
Okay,
we
thank you.
discussed that earlier.
Thank you.
Okay, we're in advance of our 5:30 timing for the public meeting, so I'd like us to move to item 10, which is business, which is page 111 of your agenda. And we'll come back to the public meeting at 5:30. So item A is the Rotary Club request to transfer their funds from the baseball to their current COVID needs. Michelle, this is already in the budget, is it not?
It's already been paid.
It's already been paid, so they're just asking to move it from one pot to another within the Rotary. Is there any discussion on this? All in favor of telling the Rotary that they can move the money? Thank you. I'd just like to suggest that, as well as moving the money, I wouldn't mind writing them a note to thank them for doing all their grocery deliveries and pickup through the last 3 months. They have made an enormous difference to this community by what they've done as volunteers. So can I add to your letter, Craig, or write the letter? I think they hats off to the people that have been doing it and continue to do it.
Yep.
Okay. The next item is the summary from SmartCo and the last meeting of our regional broadband strategy. You'll recall I sent some stuff around at the last meeting, and this is kind of an update. I'm hoping that you are reading this because we're getting very close to possible funding envelopes, we think, from both the feds and the province. Is there any questions or discussions on the documents? Councillor Moffat.
I actually was very pleased with the document. It was very informative, and it just shed light on the fact that, the last meeting we discussed doing an internet protocol, and, certainly the information that's in here helps us define a broader strategy with regards to moving internet forward, and we don't necessarily have to cozy up to the first person that comes into town and offers us, a location or a tower. We should take it slow. And I recognize that maybe slow should have been discussed 10 years ago. But I think that we need to be cautious in terms of just jumping in on the next one without considering what's here in the map and, establishing our own footprint in a protocol that we move forward in a logical, planned, methodical way, and we're just not throwing darts on the wall and ad hoc through a process. So I actually started to read this and didn't realize it was as long as it was, and I've shared this with the Federation of Ontario Cottagers Association, and I've asked that I'm wondering if there's an opportunity through FOCA to engage with waterfront communities, with municipalities, with provincial, with other organizations to try to, get a much broader look of internet across areas where they're needed.
Well, I think one thing about COVID is it has absolutely shone a light on the digital deficit in rural Canada versus urban Canada. And I think that's why there's likely going to be federal funding and provincial funding, because they can't even access government services. I do have, Art Coles and I will be attending another meeting tomorrow of the Regional Broadband Group. It is now including all of East Parry Sound and all of those municipalities, and some of the CAOs from Muskoka will be on. And I agree with you that what we've been lacking for years is an integrated regional strategy. So I hear you. On the other hand, based on the correspondence I get, as various suppliers come running and saying, I can give these 10 people a great internet, I don't want to be the person between them and better internet in the short term, but we hope we don't cut our nose off to spite our face, because the demand is enormous during COVID. So I hear you.
But the price, though, is not, just getting those 10 people, it costs them a bundle. It's not a strategy, I think, in the long term that's sustainable from a residential point of view. It certainly is, if it's mobile internet, the costs are huge, as you're well aware. The other aspect, Mayor, the other aspect of this is that I think there's an opportunity, hopefully, that the Hydro Ones of the world and the Bell Telephones of the world would be willing to participate in trying to broaden that availability through other means. And I recognize that they're their assets, but it would be really good if they were at the table, at least part of the discussion, to see if there's an opportunity there.
They are at the provincial table.
Yes.
And they may get legislated.
Yeah.
To cooperate.
Yeah.
But
that would
that's
be good.
all I can say at this stage. Councillor Fellner, you have a question. You're still on mute, Councillor Fellner.
I do. Yeah, my mouse doesn't work that fast. Thank you. This is a question for you, Madam Mayor. So we're going to resolve to secure $65 a year per house.
It's a thought.
Broadband.
It's just the way that the little committee has started to talk about what it might cost. There's no resolution in front of you. Okay. There's nothing.
There's no loan application or anything.
No. That's just us musing and trying to figure out what a cost benefit would be. It's a discussion document at this stage.
Yeah. Okay. Did what kind of dollars and cents is that for us? Any idea?
Well, we have 9,000 ratepayers times $65.
Okay.
For
9,000. Eh? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. For $500,000.
Just to give you, I talked to an engineer on the weekend with some people from Parry Sound. They estimate that to do the riding of Parry Sound Muskoka, which is the area we're kind of talking about now, is probably $250 million.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
It's a big number.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? I just urge you to read it, and you'll hear a little bit, I think, from Councillor Coles. We attended a virtual conference on this week, and the one thing is, Seguin is not alone in our problem.
All in it together.
Yeah. Okay, moving on to the Wellness Center summary. Again, I think it's pretty comprehensive. All of the public consultation got parked at the beginning of March because of COVID, and the last meeting we're just trying to reactivate it again, and the community group is working on how they're going to do it, basically community by community. So this is really just an update. Are there any questions? We'll be hearing back from them about their strategy. And now we move on. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Councillor Moffat.
So the one thing that I'm, and I recognize COVID was a bit of a left hook to most people, but I'm finding that this wellness center is not, it doesn't seem to be as public as what it could be. It seems like there's a lot of people that don't know what's going on, and a small group of people do, and a much larger, broader group don't. And I'm hopeful that, as sort of they come out of this and move it forward, that we can, like, again, if I go back to our kickoff this morning with the OP, there's a lot of stuff that's going to be done jointly between ourselves and Skeleton Brumwall in terms of publicizing it through lake associations. We just talked about that on the rental issue as well. And I'm just wondering if there's a better strategy to engage with the public and the residents with regards to this that doesn't seem to be as broad as what it could be. And since I'm not on the committee, I can't tell, but I look at it. I've talked to a number of people, and they're like, what's going on? I haven't heard anything. So I'm hopeful that that they would at least leverage the municipalities that are involved, such that JJ and others of similar vein can get it out on the website to get some presence there, so that people can actually get engaged and see what's going on.
Okay, thank you. I'll take that comment back. In fairness, it's been absolutely silent since March.
Yeah.
But they are working on it, and I know they've got a chunk of people in each community trying to decide how to communicate. They're even talking about distributing surveys at the transfer stations and things like that. So they've just kind of re-engaged. But all of the meetings are public. So once they're publicized, anybody can attend.
Yes, but the problem being is that you don't know when the meeting is until after it happens, which was the case at the last one that I thought was to come when actually it was already gone. So
Okay, I'll take that feedback back. Councillor Osborne.
Thank you, Mayor. So I find this pretty brief for a $30-some million project. In fact, the pricing, I don't think the general public knows what the hit is on this, what potential funding there could be through ICIP. I agree with Councillor Moffat. There isn't a lot of public information out there on the details surrounding this, the reasons why, the funding, who pays, how much. And I see under significant community support. Well, when I think of community support, I think of people. And I'm seeing YMCA, Simcoe Muskoka, and then health center, social services, Parry Sound medical staff, Canada. That's not people. These are agencies. So if that's the only support you got a long way to go for public buy-in to this. And I thought at one point there was a so-called expert who had done a number of pool or had been consulted to do a number of pool complexes from down in southwestern Ontario that this committee was going to consult with and have involved. I don't see that person's name in here other than YMCA of Simcoe Muskoka. So whatever, that's the first question. Whatever happened to this guy that's been there, done it? And what are the buy-in community numbers? Because the first two kicks at this cat 5-10 years ago at trying to establish a pool, there was significant surveying done. And it came out with a decision that the communities weren't ready for it. At this point, as Councillor, I'll reiterate what Councillor Moffat says, it doesn't appear there's any outreach to the public in general. Or
there hasn't been yet. There has not been yet.
Well, obviously then I guess the project can't have all that much impetus or importance if it's not getting out to the public, because you need public buy-in for this to even think about this.
Councillor Osborne, I'll just remind you that they had a full public relations set of schedules, meetings with children, with adults, with seniors. I think there were 14 meetings planned, all of which got canceled by COVID.
Well, so our meetings, okay, my point, I guess, is our meetings have not been canceled by COVID, so that's a pretty weak excuse. Thank you.
Well, public consultation is. The other issue about the dollars is that all of the ICIP grant decisions have also been delayed. So we're still hoping for a significant amount of money to come to the region. But again, we've been told not to push on the funding applications for anything associated with ICIP until the emergency is over.
I understand. Thank you.
But I'll take both those comments back. We move on to 10D, and I'll ask Councillor Moffat to bring that to your attention.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. Probably over the last, actually going back to 2018, there's always been an underlying message that I received was that we didn't have enough OPP presence on municipal roads. We seem to have excess speeding. We seem to be, sort of accidents waiting. And, from time to time, I reach out to the OPP, either on my own or I've gone through Councillor Osborne, given that he sits on that committee. But I've been getting a few more issues, follow-ups with regards to this matter. So I wanted to bring it forward to council to see if others have gotten similar comments, complaints, issues, and whether we have a strategy to be able to try to engage with the OPP, and I did talk to Councillor Fellner, is maybe we ask the OPP to attend a meeting to give us a briefing as to what they actually do on the municipal roads. I did have an opportunity last week when I was speaking to Don Hood on the bylaw that we just passed on the fires and fireworks, and he had been speaking to the dispatch commander, and I recognized they've had a few body changes in the Parry Sound area over the last year, and there hasn't been a sort of a set person. But I think it's time now that we're paying $1.2 million. Michelle can correct me. And I'm not sure that our residents are seeing that we're getting value for that money in terms of, municipal road presence that we have, I think we need to. So I wanted to bring that forward and see what others had comments on, and see if we have a strategy or we can recommend something to see if we can deal with it.
Councillor Vincent.
As Daryl knows, I as well have been working on traffic issues, actually on highways, because Rosso is surrounded by MTO highways. So I've been working hard for 2 years. I thought I had made really good progress, and then I talked to Jess, and she received a letter from MTO, which kind of eliminated everything we've done. They just said, "Sorry, we've done our stuff." And so I've asked her to go to Norm Miller, and I've asked her to have him write a letter. Maybe she's going to write a letter to MTO. So I'm hopeful. I'm not gleeful. I'm just hopeful that maybe something will happen for my roads. Like Peter spoke about getting those equipment that monitors the traffic, and they're sort of like, they already take your speed before they took your speed. So it would be an honest reflection of the speed. So I'm hoping that we can get those, but I've also spoken with Peter a little bit. I haven't gotten back to him because I'm hoping that MTO will do that, because if they do it on their highways, then they're responsible for the data and they're responsible for the results. So what I'm hoping for is traffic calming lines coming into Rosso and stuff like that. But attached to that is maybe it would be worthwhile to purchase something like that for us, so we can get the data from our roads. So maybe we can prove for our municipal roads. So maybe the OPP can say, look, these people are going 100. Like, I know they're going 100 on my road. I know it's a 50, but I know they're going 100 because I'm telling you, my hat blows off when I walk on the road. So I know it's true, and I understand it's a highway. Yours are different. They're municipal roads, but I'm wondering if maybe that's something we should look into. I don't know. Maybe getting 1 or 2 of those so that we can move them around the municipalities. I would like to do mine through MTO, so they would take action. Maybe I would like to at least try. But it would be, I think, beneficial to us all to have some of that equipment. I know Peter's looked into the cost. I think it's about $5,000 each. I'm not sure about setup. Is that right, Peter?
$7,000.
Yeah. So
a good 5 and 7.
Yeah, I think a good investment, though. I think it would do a really good job. We would get a real a view of what's happening on the roads. And I know traffic, especially now that there's not as many people. Holy moly. They're going fast. I've had the problem for 2 years, obviously, but boy, they're really going fast now. So I agree we need to do something. I would not like for the OPP to have to pay them to come and do it, extra money. So I would like you said, maybe for them to come or us to meet with them. I wouldn't mind doing it with you, Daryl, if we could have a meeting and then bring it to council, because I think we do need to talk about some kind of checking up on our roads by the OPP and not adding extra cost to our bill. Because I think, like you say, we pay good money, and they used to. I know they used to do my road all the time here, but they don't. I haven't seen them in years. So anyway, that's just my comments, and I agree with you that we have a speeding issue. It would be nice to take care of.
Okay, I have 4 councillors who've got their blue hand up. So next is Councillor Osborne.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree with you, Councillor Benson. And this is the first I've heard the numbers. I'm not sure that other municipalities are purchasing these post-mounted radars. I know in Muskoka Lakes there's a number of them in other municipalities, or whether MTO gets involved. But from my experience of the advisory committee of the OPP, this discussion has come up with other municipalities' speed. And correct me if I'm wrong, Michelle, I believe if we request radar presence in our municipality, the time involved becomes a call for service. Are you there? And it's billable?
Actually, I believe it's an extra billable service, not a regular call for service.
Well, that's what I meant, a billable service. For a cruiser to sit, say, on Rankin Lake Road for half an hour, they'll bill us the appropriate amount. So that's always been the stumbling block here. Where do you put them, for how long, and how much are we prepared to pay? And I don't believe, at least I haven't communicated that to OPP, because that's what we do on the advisory board. I know in Parry Sound, people have asked for extra foot patrols. McKellar has asked for speed control. But these issues cost money, and I think that in order to get increased OPP presence in their radar cruisers, we at council would have to establish a budgeted amount that we're willing to spend per year to accommodate some checks in different portions of the municipality, in concert with their financial people and Michelle that could tell us how much it's going to cost for so many hours per month or whatever throughout the township. That's the only solution, other than the pole-mounted radars that Gail has been talking about, which I think is an excellent idea in hotspots, especially coming into Rosso. That's a permanent location. Sometimes a cruiser will sit at 632 behind the bushes, but it's very seldom. Thank you.
Councillor Felder.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to turn my little hand up. I think that we've got a few different problems. I know, for example, on the old 69 highway, the Lake Joseph Road, speaking last year, there was a significant police presence on that, particularly on the weekends during the summer, because there's a lot of bicycle riding activity, a lot of walkers on there because of the paved shoulders, and they had a significant presence there. I know in Muskoka Lakes, because I've seen this thing 2 or 3 times over the last few days on the Peninsula Road going into Port Sandfield. Either way, there's a sign with the radar on it, and it seems to work pretty well. And I'm thinking that, perhaps in certain areas of the township, we might look at investing in some of these on a trial basis. The Rankin Lake Road, is a bit concerning to me because it's part and parcel of what we agreed would be the Great Lakes Trail. And it's not an overly wide road. And it's the natural extension of the Lake Joseph Road for bicycles in particular. It really needs some sort of deterrent. It needs 2 things, in my opinion: some sort of deterrent to keep the speed down, and then I think we should be looking at a long-term strategy to pave one shoulder and build a proper bicycle lane on that road in stages, perhaps. But I mean, you need to be proactive with this type of thing before the volume of use dramatically increases, and all of a sudden we're looking at some misfortunes, which I don't think we want to get into. But I would think that we should do a pilot project, maybe purchase 4 of these signs, put 2 in Rosso, put 2 out in the Rankin Lake Road. They certainly are a deterrent, because a lot of times you don't really realize how fast you're going till this thing starts flashing at you. So I would support
thank you.
that.
I can tell you that Muskoka Lakes owns the ones that they have.
I would assume they do.
And I've spoken to Phil Harding, and his feeling is they really do work, that people do slow down when they see. And Councillor Osborne and I received a letter, I think, a couple of weeks ago about speeding on Sandy Plains. It's not just the roads we're talking about today. It's everywhere there are pedestrians and bikes. Councillor Moffat, you're next, and then Councillor Collins.
Oh, I'll let Councillor go ahead since I started this. So,
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I was, well, for everyone's information, I was in the same predicament as Gail is in right now. And this goes back to 2016. And I contacted some individuals with MTO. I am also, Orville is on a municipal, or I should say a provincial highway. which is Highway 518, and you're on Highway 141. And what I did, I erected community safety zone signs that immediately reduced the speed limit from 80 down to 40. And it didn't cost the township a dime. MTO paid for everything. It's how you put it together and submit it to them to get your community safety zone signs. So I've done it, and it works here in Oroville, and it didn't cost the township a dime. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Finson.
I just wanted to say that Rosso is already a community safety zone. Highway 632, the speed limit is 50. So they already are, and they're still going 100. So I'm not sure why it didn't work here, but it is a community safety zone. Going both ways. So Rosso, from the time you come into the 50 on both sides, and it was reduced from 60 to 50, I must say, but it's not working here. It just doesn't seem to work. Anyway, that's just my comment. Thank you.
Councillor Osborne.
That's fine. Councillor Finson just covered what I was going to suggest.
Okay. Councillor Moffat. Yeah. Okay.
I guess it sounds like, and I believe that we actually have use of the radar sign, the portable one that is owned by the township, or the town of Parry Sound. I think we can utilize one of theirs. Peter, is that not correct?
It's
maybe.
Councillor Moffat is.
Is there a shared service or something with that?
They have a traffic counter.
Okay.
It's the ding-a-ling that they put across the road, and it calculates the speed. They don't have a radar.
Okay.
And the other problem is we can't put it on a highway because it's in an MTO corridor, and we have to get approval for it. And so there is really the hang-up is the MTO.
So when you say that, does that mean that Rankin Lake Road is in that sort of half pregnant because it's kind of MTO, or once it crosses over the highway, it becomes a municipal road where they turn when they plow in the winter? Is that?
We could put it on Rankin Lake Road.
Okay, at certain spots.
On 32, we couldn't put it on 518 because it's a highway corridor, and you have to have a permission for it.
Okay. Peter, do we have because I have people that also expressed a view of reducing the speed, again, on Rankin Lake Road, maybe from 60 to 50. But obviously, that, comes with that is enforcement. But I'm just wondering, do we have a document or a process that if I was to circle back with the residents to see if do we have something that we could do, or they could do in conjunction with my assistants and you, to at least get the signs changed from 60 to 50, or is that not something that we have in our pocketbook?
We do. There's a bylaw for speeds for the township, for all the roads where the stop signs are, where the regulatory signs are. If a petition comes forward, then it becomes, it has to be approved by as a bylaw, and the council has to approve it, and then it has to get registered with the government because it's a official.
Okay.
It's an official document. It's a regulatory.
I see that many of you have your hands up, and what I'm about to say, I'm just going to ask for your indulgence a little bit. I know that Councillor Finson's been working on this for a couple of years. We also know that it's pervasive on many, many kinds of roads. Some of them are ours, some of them are highways. We also know we want to keep our citizens safe. I am wondering if we could refer this back to staff, being Director Coppich, to come back to council with some recommendations of how we might tackle it on the different classifications of roads. At the same time, pursue MPP Miller and the province. I know there's been a lot of people changes at the MTO and at OPP, but I think what we need is a strategy that says council cares, we care about the people, we're looking at alternatives. There are alternatives to paint that include painting roads. There are even ideas of painting speed bumps that aren't actually bumps, and people slow down for them. But again, that we probably need permission on a highway. But I think what we need is a strategy, and I'd like to see if Director Coppich would take it on as a bit of a project to work with the concerned councillors.
Can I just add just a follow-up? And that's exactly what I was hopeful to get out of this discussion. But I'm wondering, do we have an ability to ask the OPP to come in and maybe inform us as to what they're doing in the township outside of, what they're, on the major issues and stuff like that, but maybe from a road safety perspective or a bicycle safety or a pedestrian safety, so that at least we have a basis as to, what exactly is our service expectation from the OPP. And I'm not sure, Councillor Osborne, if this would go through you on the committee, or is that a, an ask that would come from our CAO?
Councillor Osborne, go ahead and reply.
I'm not sure that having Sergeant McDonald, Jeremy McDonald, coming to a meeting would be helpful. He's not a staff sergeant. He's in a temporary position. They're pretty wishy-washy on this enforcement issue. If they plan the radar and they use portion of their staff time for it, then we don't bear any expense. But to ask them to give us a profile, I'm not sure we get the information. It's possible, but getting back to what we were trying to direct Peter to do here, Daryl, is that to give us options. Okay, we talked about post-mounted signs, electronic radar signs with data. We talked about speed, community safety zone. We talked about lowering speed. So there's a number of functions around this whole issue that Peter can look at and maybe chew on for us. But just to make mention that, I think, Peter, you mentioned about petitioning the local residents on a road. Past Councillor Dale Graves, I believe, had the speed limit reduced on Horseshoe Lake Road with the help of a petition. I and Mayor Khan in the past had the speed reduced on Sandy Plains Road South to 30. So you can do it if you've got the local public support. And as Peter mentioned, it's got to go through a bylaw and be approved. So we might consider that too on certain areas or certain roads. But I think that's a good plan. Peter, if you could, have a look at all of the options and come back to council with what do you feel is best suited and has the best outcome, best bang for a buck.
But in order to do that, we really need data to be able to demonstrate where the problem childs are outside of residents speaking. So that to me kind of means that we need to get the radar signs to be able to collect the data first and then be able to strategize based on that.
Well, you're not going to be able...
Councillor, hang on, because I've got a list of people who want to speak. So I'm going to cut the conversation. I think if Peter takes a look at the options, we need to hear the budget implications of each and the numbers. So let's hand it off to staff. I have Councillor Fellner who wants to speak, and I'd ask everybody else to wait until they're identified, please, to speak.
Yeah, I just, I think that's a great idea to have Peter, if you do it, lead up a study and give some recommendations. But I just wanted to know, does the OPP not have a community safety? I thought they had a community safety sort of organization within their organization. And, this isn't a unique problem that we're looking at. I mean, other municipalities have had this problem in a greater extent. And is there not a resource there we could ask, or Peter could ask for, that can give you the benefit of their wisdom? What worked, Peter, in this situation, what didn't? I would think that you know, that they've got that in their organization somewhere. I don't think it'll be at the local detachment level, but I'm pretty sure that, because they have that, they have these community safety officers that travel around the schools and places like that. So, I mean, that's all I was going to offer. But I think we need to look at this, and we need to, put an action plan together.
Director Popovich can talk to OPP, all kinds of other people. There's no reason we can't invite them to come, but I think they should be part of the early discussion looking at alternatives.
Exactly.
So I'm handing it off to Director Coppich, and if you want to reach out to other councillors and figure out what's already happened at MPP Miller's office and those kinds of things, I think it would be useful, but we'll look forward to getting some alternatives. And I think it's fair for all of us that have newsletters to comment about speeds in our newsletters with people, because sometimes they don't understand. So let's leave it at that for now. I'm quickly going to finish the business. E got added in the addendum, and that's an issue of how do we cover unforeseen meeting expenses that are associated with COVID. And I'm not entirely sure where this is coming from, but some people are experiencing increased internet charges and those kinds of things. And when I spoke to the clerk, he kind of looked at me and said, everybody's dealing with this. So again, without creating a lot of work, I'm going to say, staff, could you come back with a recommendation on what we do with COVID meeting expenses that we never thought we'd have? Is that something you can do?
Actually, it has to be dealt with at council, because the council remuneration policy does not allow staff to pay any extra expenses.
Okay.
So,
can you bring a recommendation to council, though, about how they should be handled? I'm not talking about a dollar amount. I'm talking about who pays for what.
I could, but right now this is the only request I've got. Nobody else has requested any other expenses. So.
Okay. Councillor Osborne, you have your hand up.
Yeah, actually, I brought this up, Mayor, to Treasury last week. And I'm not sure if I'm unique in this situation or not. I'm on a Rogers hub, and I get so many gigs a month, 10 gigs a month. And that, for the most part, handles my business and private communications on the internet. Since we've been having these virtual meetings, we're in streaming video here. This is like watching a movie, albeit not a great one, but so it is streaming video. It eats up the gigabytes. So right now I'm down to, I got almost 2 weeks to go on my 10 gig, and I've used 9 gig already. This is way more usage than I would normally have. So what I've had to do was buy from Rogers for $15 an additional 3 gigs to keep me online. And I'm wondering if other members of council have had to up their Wi-Fi budget billings to accommodate these meetings as well, because other people have more than just council meetings. We have, health meetings, OPP meetings, other virtual meetings. And I wonder if anyone else has encountered the same thing. So the purpose of bringing that up at this meeting with Michelle is that there's nothing categorized in expenses, like mileage for this, but I see it as a similar cost that is other than normal. So I just wonder could we poll the councillors and see if they have a problem with their capacity?
Could I just have a show of hands of anybody that's experienced increased data charges because of COVID? Councillor Moffat and Councillor Osborne are the only two.
Just to clarify, I will be experiencing, I only get 5 gigabytes, and then it starts to ratchet it up. I've actually spoken to Dominique whether I can utilize the Foley Community Center in order to do Zoom calls, because I'm not going to bear $300 internet charge bills for 4 meetings over a few week period that are all Zoom calls. It's just not, that is not a cost that I'm going to incur. So
I would suggest, Mayor, it should be handled similar to mileage on a monthly expense form. We just need a category into our bylaw for those expenses.
Michelle, can we do that at the next meeting to make it a category for expenses? No?
This is specific direction, specific to COVID-19. So it needs a resolution from council either approving that.
Can't hear.
So.
Can't hear.
Okay, she's saying it needs a resolution from council to change the remuneration bylaw for councillors.
Yeah, I would like to make that resolution. The provision would be for as long as these virtual meetings would go on, and that's not going to happen forever. So it may only be a matter of months, right? Temporary basis.
Okay. Can I suggest that we'll work on that resolution as we go into the public meeting? And then it would only, I don't know whether, as long as the virtual meetings extend, I guess you can't say as long as the emergency thing stands because we don't know what the rollout's going to be. And it would be as receipted from, it would need to be as receipted, or a bill is received from your internet provider if you're paying more.
We'll work on something.
Okay, they'll work on something.
Probably for the next meeting.
Okay, we'll bring a resolution back to the next meeting so that it's properly worded, but we'll work towards that end.
That's fine.
Is that okay?
Good.
Can we go back to public?
Oh, we're going to let some people in here.
Okay, what we're doing technically right now is we're letting some of the people that want to present in the public meeting in. So the first is a motion to move into the public meeting. Could I have a motion by Ward 6?
I so move.
Thank you. Seconded by Ward 1.
I'll second it.
And I'll read the motion. That the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby adjourn the regular meeting to hold a public meeting for the following matters. Consent application number B 2020-0009-H and B 2020-0010-H for Hawker Duncan, and zoning bylaw amendment application number R 2020-0002-H for Clapperton, and consent application number B 2020-0011-M for Catherine and McGuire, and consent application number B 2020-0013-F for Coppage. All in favor of moving into the public meeting?
Let's see if we're muted.
Thank you. And I believe that Adam will be our staff resource person on this. So I have a little bit of a text here that I have to read. I apologize to you in the public. This is mandated text that I have to read in a public meeting. Council will now hold public meetings for the proposed consent and zoning bylaw amendment applications. In accordance with the Planning Act, Council will consider all matters placed before it prior to granting a consent or passing a zoning bylaw. If a person or public body who files an appeal of a decision of the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin in respect of a proposed consent does not make written submissions to the Council before it provides or refuses to provide a provisional consent, the Local Planning Appeal Tribunal may dismiss the appeal. Anyone wishing to receive notice of the passing of a zoning bylaw amendment, not owning land within 120 meters of the area to which it applies, and who has not submitted such a request in writing, should submit a written request to the clerk. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of Council to the Local Planning Appeal Tribunal, and the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the Local Planning Appeal Tribunal unless, in the opinion of the Tribunal, there are reasonable grounds to do so. The purpose of consent application number B 2020-0009-H for Hoctor Duncan is to grant right-of-way over the granting lands at 199 Jean Marie Road to benefiting lands owners Hogarth, located in the township of Muskoka Lakes. The purpose of the consent application number B 2020-0010-H for Hoctor Duncan is to grant right-of-way over the granting lands of 199 Jean Marie Road to benefiting lands B, owners Hoctor Duncan, located in the township of Muskoka Lakes. The proposed consent applications will provide right-of-way access over an existing private driveway and a portion of an existing private road, Sealy Bay Road. I now ask the clerk to state the method by which notice of the meeting was provided and the dates on which that notice was provided.
Notice of the public meeting was provided by posting the property and by regular mail on June 1st, 2020. Notice was therefore considered to be provided in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act.
Has anyone registered to speak in favor of or in opposition to these applications?
No one is registered to speak in favor of or in opposition to these applications.
Has the township received any correspondence with respect to these applications?
No correspondence has been received.
Does council have any questions? Nope. So I will move on to the next application. The purpose of the zoning bylaw amendment application number R 2020-0002-H for Clapperton is to permit the construction of a 1.5-story, two-slip boathouse with an upper-level sun deck requiring the following exemptions to zoning bylaw number 2006-125. Increase the maximum lot coverage from the permitted 5.75% to a proposed 6.03%. Increase the maximum boathouse width from the permitted 11 meters to a proposed 15.09 meters. Increase the maximum boathouse dock deck area from the permitted 168 square meters to proposed 215.93 square meters. I now ask the clerk to state the method by which notice of the meeting was provided and the dates on which that notice was provided.
Notice of the public meeting was provided by posting the property and by regular mail on May 26, 2020. Notice was therefore considered to be provided in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act.
Has anyone registered to speak in favor of or in opposition to this application?
Sophie Clapperton, the applicant, has registered to speak to the application, and I believe John Jackson, the agent, is also available.
Is this Sophie that's on the camera now? Is now when she gets to speak? Sophie, would you like to address council now?
I think we'll let John speak first, if that's all right.
Sure.
Okay.
So
thank you.
Just state your name. It's John and Sophie Clapperton?
Yes.
Chris and Sophie Clapperton, and then John Jackson.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. Can you hear me?
Yes.
We can hear you. We can't see you.
Oh, okay. That might be less scary, so that's fine.
Okay.
I can see you.
All right. Thank you, Council. This is the statutory public meeting that follows the planning staff report on the information. I just to clarify that this was originally born as a minor variance application, but because of the nature of the application, it was elected to proceed by zoning. Although I think that, in my respectful opinion, the application is one that really is speaking to some what ultimately are marginal relief requests. The changes that we're requesting in this application have a unique but yet more and more common kind of basis, and that basis relates to the need for protection against some of the powerful sun we see coming along these years. So what we ultimately have is a application for a special structural element in a otherwise pretty typical 1.5-story boathouse for the municipality's shoreline, and that is to really take that boat port or third slip and convert it into a shade protection area, because the owner has a sun condition that makes it imperative that he stays out of the sun. I believe I circulated to council a letter that he had received from his family doctor explaining the background to this. I think that in many ways, the application will be essentially, as I describe it, imperceptible from other typical structures of this nature. So we're hoping for staff and council's support for this relief to allow this property owner to continue to enjoy the property and join his family members along the shore of their traditional waterfront property. Now, I'm not sure, Sophie or Chris, if you're able to add anything, but I think that's the fundamental basis for the application, Madam Mayor and Council.
Thank you. Do you have anything to add, Sophie or Chris?
I don't. Sophie, do you?
No, I think that John summed that up well, and yeah, I think that's everything.
I think that's it.
Okay, has the township received any correspondence with respect to this application?
No correspondence has been received.
Does council have any questions? I see some hands up. Councillor Fellner. You need to unmute, Councillor Fellner.
Sorry about that, wrong button again. Question for Steve or Adam?
Adam's taking the questions on this.
Adam, okay, Adam. So typically, on a lot of this width, which is just around 440 feet, what typically would be allowed? Would the boat slip be allowed?
On this lot, I'm just looking at the staff report as I speak. The boathouse that's there in your staff report is basically allowed with the exception of that covered sun deck. So this property has enough frontage for a 1.5 story, 2-slip boathouse. The exemptions for width, coverage, and dock deck area are for that upper level sun deck. So minus that sun deck, what council sees would otherwise be permitted.
Okay, so it would be typically a 2-slip, not with the third boat port, right?
They're actually, that's not a boat port. There's no slip underneath that sun deck.
No, I know, but if it wasn't proposed for this, would it be a 2-slip boathouse, or would it be a 2-slip with a boat port boathouse?
There's enough frontage there for a 2-slip boathouse.
2-slip. It's getting on the high side of the frontage, though, right? It's getting,
yes.
Yeah. Okay. And so the variance is about 500 square feet, and it's in the middle of the lot, and they're all big lots along there, I believe, are they not?
Yes, these are lots that were created within the last 12 to 13 years. This is the first one being developed of 4.
Yes.
So these are otherwise known as the cliff lots, just on the Rocky Crest. Yes.
So this one's the closest to the Trails End Bay, correct?
Yes, that's right. Trails End is just to the north.
So there's quite a bit of buffer between it and the adjacent properties.
Yeah, these 4 lots to the north, it's pretty much cliff. I don't think we'll see development there. And then to the south, you get some of the larger Humphrey boathouses that were approved under the old bylaw.
Getting down towards Round Island, yeah. Okay. So, okay, no, I think that's all I have for questions. Thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Osborne.
Thank you, Mayor. Do you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. First of all, first question is the steel frame for the boathouse was already constructed according to building. I guess the question to the building is why, or to Adam, was that approved to be built prior to this application?
The steel structure went up at some point. I don't know the exact history or what's happened, but I believe, and Sophie can jump in, the building permit, I believe, has been amended to remove that sun deck pending council approval to allow the boathouse to continue along. So the steel frame that's there really is moot at this point, I believe.
Is the steel frame not for the boathouse?
It is, yes.
Well, what do you mean? You mean the steel frame for the sun deck is being removed, you said. Is it the boathouse frame or is it the sun deck frame? Which is it?
Oh, it's the boathouse frame.
Okay, so if it's gonna be removed, how do you build the boathouse?
The frame's not being removed.
The permit was amended, is what Adam said.
Well, Adam just said that the steel frame was going to be removed. The permit?
The permit was amended, not the steel frame.
In other words, okay, I guess my question is, should the permit have been issued? How's that for a question? At the time it got issued?
I'm not sure. My understanding is that the permit was issued to allow the boathouse to continue, but the permit drawing had the sun deck, subject to council approval, removed so that they can continue.
I can provide some clarification on that if you'd like. The steel structure was built when the dock permit was approved, and we had all of that taken care of. It was built at the same time, and so we submitted a permit for a 2-slip boathouse, this same design, same structural, just without the variance we're going for here with the deck. So the structure will remain the same regardless of the outcome of this.
Okay, thank you. And Adam, further questions. So we're looking at here, lot coverage is exceeded by 5%, 603 versus 5.75. The boathouse is in excess of 37%. The width, the slips or the dock deck area is 215 versus the approved 168, which is a 28% increase. Has there been any opportunity in your negotiations with the owners or the planner on coming closer to our limitations?
Well, this is what the applicants applied for, so we put this in front of council tonight.
That's fine, but has there been any comments back to the applicants stating the amount of overage there is and whether or not they're prepared to mitigate this differential?
Well, that's up to the applicant, but this is what they've applied for tonight. So
okay, so in other words, the township has not gone back to the applicant and said you are in excess in your application of the allowed limits, correct?
Well, the applicants are aware that they're over the bylaw. We had to create the exemptions that they're requesting.
So therefore, someone in the township must have advised them or their planner that they were over in the limitations. That's my question. I just want a yes or no answer. Did the bylaw advise the applicants at the outset that this exceeded the limitations in the bylaw?
Well, we don't provide a planning opinion at the time. We talked to them about the overages, and the Clappertons decided to proceed with a zoning amendment. It was originally going to be a variance, and planning staff said that these overages are probably not minor. You should probably go to council through a special zone.
And that's why we're here. All right, thank you.
Yeah.
And Director Stone would like to comment. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor, to the rest of the council. So yes, there was a permit issued for a 1.5-story boathouse that was issued by the land manager. Looks like it was issued in March. And to further what Adam says, it certainly was acknowledged that what they were requesting was outside the allowable limits within the bylaw, hence the application before council. And it's much like if you go through the minor variance process, or you go, if staff feels it's beyond a minor variance, it's actually, it requires its own exception in the bylaw. That's why we encourage this application to go to council, and hence the public meeting is really to get a sense of what the public might feel with regards to the request, as well as council goes. And at the end of the day, we do as a staff team meet with applicants. Certainly as they were going through the building permit process, it was identified early on that they needed to seek some sort of planning approval. In this case, they were requested to present their case to council because we felt it didn't fit the realm of minor variance or a committee of adjustment approval. So
thank you for those answers, Steve. I appreciate a good answer.
Could I just clarify, Madam Mayor, through you, that there was a discussion, obviously, that took place as this started out as a minor variance, as both Adam and Steve described. We made the election. There is a little interesting kind of, I suppose, significant difference between the Committee of Adjustment process, where minor is an important test, which Councillor, I think, Osborne is kind of assessing, but that's not a test on a rezoning. It's whether or not the request to council for the relief is whether it is appropriate. So just a clarification there on Planning 101. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Fellner, you have final comments? We need to unmute, please.
Sorry. I'm going to learn one day, I guess, Madam Mayor. I think it's important to consider here, too, that those 4 lots that Adam referred to are all large lots, and they're all lots where the shoreline is pretty much inaccessible. So the boathouse has become an issue, a big issue, I think, in my mind, on those lots. I guess the question to the Clappertons are, did you give any consideration to adjusting the scale of what you are applying for, or would you have any sort of appetite to do that?
So you are correct that access to the dock and to the boathouse is very challenging, and our lot is probably the most accessible of them all. We know that 2 of the lots are going to remain undeveloped for the foreseeable future. 1 may potentially be developed, but that's out of the 4, that's the only one. So we do require some sort of a bridge onto the upper level of the boathouse just to simply access the dock level, given the granite cliff that we have. And we are open to scaling down the covered area slightly to appease council. We've sort of, what's drawn right now is drawn essentially to match what it would have been had it been the traditional 2.5 slip. So we can size it down, but it was done essentially to size as though it were the 2.5 slip.
And to match the look of the boathouses.
Yeah, and to match the look of the boathouses around us.
Yeah, okay. Fair enough. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much to the Clappertons and to John for appearing. This is the public meeting, so it'll come back at a future meeting for a decision. So I move on to the 3rd consent application. The purpose of the consent application B 2020-0011-M for Catherine and McGuire is to create one 38-hectare rural lot with 750 meters of frontage on Highway 518, 335 meters of frontage on Nipissing Road. The retained lands would have a lot area of 42 hectares with 377 meters of frontage on Nipissing Road. I now ask the clerk to state the method by which notice of the meeting was provided and the dates on which that meeting of notice was provided.
Notice of the public meeting was provided by posting the property and by regular mail on June 1st, 2020. Notice was therefore considered to be provided in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act.
Has anyone registered to speak in favor of or in opposition to this application?
No one is registered to speak in favor of or in opposition to this application.
Has the township received any correspondence with respect to this application?
No correspondence has been received.
Does council have any questions on this? Nope. Then we will move on to the 4th. The purpose of consent application number B 2020-0013-F for Coppage is to provide right-of-way access over the granting lands 128 Bradshaw Road, benefiting the lands of property roll number 4903-030-00 4-05527. The right-of-way would be located over a portion of an existing private road, Boyd's Nest, to provide access to the benefiting lands from Bradshaw Road. I now ask the clerk to state the method by which notice of the meeting was provided and the dates on which that notice was provided.
Notice of the public meeting was provided by posting the property and by regular mail on June 1st, 2020. Notice was therefore considered to be provided in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act.
Has anyone registered to speak in favor of or in opposition to this application?
No one has registered to speak in favor of or in opposition to this application.
Has the township received any correspondence with respect to this application?
No correspondence has been received.
Does council have any questions? Okay, thank you. Council will now close the public meeting and reconvene the regular meeting. So, could I have a motion from Ward 2?
I will so move.
Seconded by Ward 3.
Second.
That the public meeting held for the following matters is hereby closed and the regular meeting is hereby reconvened. Consent application numbers B 2020-0009-H and B 2020-0010-H for Hochter Duncan. Zoning bylaw amendment application number R 2020-0002-H for Clapperton. Consent application B 2020-0011-M for Catherine and McGuire. And consent application number B 2020-0013-F for Coppage. All in favor of closing the public meeting? Thank you. That's carried. And now we make the decision. So the first, I get the motion first? Read it and then. That the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby grant provisional approval to consent applications number B 2020-0009-H and B 2020-0010-H for Hochter Duncan, subject to the conditions set out in the decision. Can I have a motion by Ward 4? Okay, thank you, Terry. And seconded by Ward 5.
I second it.
All in favor? Thank you. Carried. This is that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby grant provisional approval to consent application number B 2020-0011-M for Catherine and McGuire, subject to the conditions set out in the decision. Moved by Ward 6.
I so move.
And seconded by Ward 1. Thank you.
I'll second that.
And all in favor? Thank you. Carried. Last one. That the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby grant provisional approval to consent application number B 2020-0013-F for Coppage, subject to the conditions set out in that decision. Could I have a motion by Ward 2?
Also move.
Thank you, and seconded by Ward 3.
I second.
All in favor? Thank you. And that's carried. Okay, we're going to jump now to item 11, bylaws. That bylaw number 2020-055, being a bylaw to write off taxes on properties in the Township of Seguin, is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Could I have a motion by Ward 4?
Moved.
And seconded by Ward 5?
No, I'd like to speak on this, Mayor. Which one are we talking about?
First we need a motion and a seconder before we can open debate. So
okay, I'll second it.
Okay, Ted Collins. Okay, is there any discussion?
There's only the one, isn't there?
That's correct.
I would like to hold back the property tax write-off on this particular property. The aftermath, this property has the aftermath of a cottage destroyed by fire in 2019 that still exists today. There's been no attempt made to date by the owner to remove the unsafe burned debris. I'm thinking that I would like, until the owners exercise their demolition permit and remove the unsightly, unsafe mess, I would ask council to stay writing off the taxes till this is done. This property is on 2000 or on Highway 518, and everyone who comes into Oroville sees this property on the right-hand side, and it's just an unsightly mess and unsafe. And I want to hold writing off the property taxes on this particular property. And if I need a resolution or a motion, then I will so move.
I'm going to ask Michelle Fraser in the position of treasurer to reply to that.
If you'll recall, at the last meeting of council was notified that a demolition permit was granted on this property. They now have 6 months to act on that.
Yes, I'm aware of that.
So they are proceeding as best they can with their insurance agent and a demolition company, and we gave them the demolition permit.
No, I know I know this has been done, but when would the write-off of these taxes be? Immediate?
Yes.
Well, I think that I still want to hold back the writing off of the property taxes. And if I have to make a motion, and if I get support from council, fine. If I don't, fine.
Just for my clarification, Michelle, writing off of taxes comes to us from...
This is a Section 357 application, which means that MPAC has actually determined the amount of assessment that has been lost on the property due to the building being destroyed by fire, and that's what this write-off is.
So that the number comes to us from MPAC.
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'm going to call. We've got a request to stay it. Sorry. I'm not looking at Little Boo hands. Okay, Councillor Osborne, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Michelle, you mentioned that they have 6 months to clean up or to demolish after the fire. Can you tell us how long it's been since the fire actually occurred to now?
No, they have, I believe they have 6 months from the demolition permit being issued.
Which was about 2.5 weeks ago.
Yes.
Why was it be such a delay from 2019 to 2 weeks ago for the permit to demolish?
I don't have that answer, Steve. Do you have that?
I believe some of it had to do with their insurance.
I believe some of it had to do with the insurance company, yes.
So we wait at the township level, we wait until such time as they request the permit for demolition?
You have to apply for that permit, yes.
Okay, so that could go on for quite some time. If they hadn't applied for demolition till September, they'd go 6 months from then.
Let's let Director Stone answer, because I think he's the one that has the answers.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, to the rest of council. So the simply speaking, we've been engaged chatting with the property owner for a few months now, and that was through the fire chief, through this CBO, chief building official, and myself. And it's true, it's only recently that she did apply for a building permit, and Michelle is right that she has six months to act on it. So, but leading up to the building permit issuance for demolition, we were aware that she was going through her insurance company to hire a contractor to come out and remedy the situation. There was a few circumstances that happened after the fire, which occurred on the 29th of December, and one was the snowfall, and so it was the arrangements couldn't be finalized until the summertime. And again, more recently we were in contact with her and urged her to get the demolition permit to ensure that, yes, the site will be cleaned up. So, but in terms of being able to force her, we don't have that vehicle at this point because building permits are active for 6 months.
Thank you. Councillor Fellner, you have a question?
Well, I guess the reality of it is we're not going to get that revenue whether we raise it off or not. But to me, it just seems a little bit, strange that we'd be willing to do that before the owner did their part and cleaned up, ensure that the site was cleaned up. So I can see Councillor Collins' point, and I happen to agree with it. Could we not simply just defer this until times that they've closed out their demolition permit, and then write the taxes off, and then might be a solution there, I think. I don't know what everybody else's appetite for that is. But.
Councillor Osborne.
I'll make that motion to defer.
That'd be a motion to defer? Yes. So what happens to this?
He's the seconder.
Okay, so I need a motion. Is Councillor Collins making the motion? And
I'll make that motion.
Councillor Osborne seconding it?
That's fine. Yes.
Okay.
I would suggest if they're deferring it, they give a timeline. So.
Can we say deferred until the demolition is complete?
Yeah, I think that's perfect.
That's perfect.
Oh, $500. Okay.
So we wrote deferred until demolition is complete.
Yeah, and then do I call for a vote?
Yes, you need to vote, sorry. If it's carried.
Okay, so I'm calling for a vote to defer the bylaw to write off taxes on this property until the demolition is complete. All in favor of the deferral? 1, 2, 3. Yep.
Are you good?
Hang on, wait a minute.
You had a majority.
For it.
What?
Okay, all right.
5.
Okay, so it is.
Boy, Dave.
So we'll go to council reports now. Councillor Finson, can you go first, please?
Yes. Had an official plan meeting today. It went very well. I was really impressed. Yes, I was impressed with everybody, and it went quickly. It was 1 hour. It was great. Had a DSAB meeting via not Zoom but on the phone, and they're in pretty good shape. The one thing I will say is that the daycare that was covered by the province isn't quite covered. They're writing a letter, and I don't know if there's a copy of it with our correspondence, but a letter to the province to ask where that $400,000 is going to come from. The extra money for the daycare. So, but they're in really good shape. They're hoping to have a new CAO by the end of July. So that's all good news. Working on traffic still. I have a call into Jess. She was going to have a letter to me today, but I didn't get it. But that's okay. I know she's busy because she's above the Beverleys. So she just moved into her new location, and then the fire happened. So she's been a little bit busy, and it's been hard to get a hold of her. Anyway, I will let everybody know next steps for my traffic situation, and that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Ward 5, Councillor Collins.
Yes, Mayor. I'll just reiterate what Councillor Finson said about DSAT. Is that Janice Bray, who's the acting CAO, is retired as of June the 26th after 33 years. And yes, there's a new CAO on deck. but we still have to resolve, the board still has to resolve her position. And other than a lot of, you know, I guess you could say it's our parks. I'm hoping to see, and the playgrounds opened up soon. That's what I'd like to see in my area. The playgrounds and the parks opened up soon. Thank you.
Yeah, that is dependent on the province. Councillor Fellner.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. We had a meeting, library board meeting last week, and discussed and finalized the plans to provide basically a curbside pickup for the library. Initially, I believe, I don't know if it's finalized yet or not, but I think the pickup point perhaps might be the front lobby of the municipal building. And the thought was to gauge sort of, you know, how much use that would be. We also worked hard on having a plan in place in the eventuality that we're allowed to open, perhaps on a limited basis or what have you. That pretty much consumed the whole meeting. It was a productive meeting. We also had a committee of adjustment meeting last week. A couple applications, one of note. There was some bylaw infractions on the lot. And the agreement was the site-specific plan and the rehabilitation plan would be brought to council for their comment and approval. Believe some of the work has been done to the museum roof. I'm not exactly sure how far they got with it in the last week. You know, that some work was there, was done there, but of course it doesn't look like the museum would be able to open. And a few calls again since the last meeting, and interestingly enough, Madam Mayor, they're all on high speed or on the more affordable internet, and a couple of comments. Boating season started, so there's been a couple of boating nuisance issues. Nothing really out of the ordinary. That's about all I have to report.
Thank you. Councillor Osborne, Ward 3.
Thank you, Mayor. The only thing I have to report is I noticed a recent article from CEO Donald Sanderson and the Chief Medical Officer of the hospital, Dr. Farger, concerning the North Bay Parry Sound Health Unit. They're upset in the fact that, you know, because there's no reported cases in the West Parry Sound area of COVID lately, that this information coming from the health unit is not effective or accurate. What happens is if a cottager from somewhere down south comes up here and does get symptoms of COVID and gets tested positive, the results and the registration for that case goes to their principal residence. So a person from Pickering, for example, that gets sick up here, gets tested positive, that does not get counted in the West Parry Sound area, it gets counted in Pickering. So these numbers they can't depend on these numbers. And I know both Donald Sanderson and Barger were quite upset with this. And the medical officer of health, Chirico, was either unwilling or unable to change that. And it's happening all over the province. So we're getting inaccurate numbers. And I'm almost at the point where I'd like us to make some sort of resolution to this health unit, because unlike other health units in the province, they're part of the problem. They're not doing their job. And I've lost all respect for that chief medical officer of health, as has the hospital, West Parry Sound. I just want every counselor to know what's going on. Don't think we're COVID-free in Parry Sound. We may not be. And that's the message they were trying to get out. Don't drop your guard. Thank you.
I will point out, I think the message is clear. Don't drop your guard. Continue to practice all of the public health guidelines. I should point out that when anybody in any year presents at the hospital with a broken leg or a heart attack, they are recorded by the address on their health card. So this issue affects the overall funding of the hospital on a going basis. So even if you're admitted for a heart attack in Parry Sound, you're not counted as a Parry Sound patient if your postal code is elsewhere. So it's a problem that's been going on for the hospital for many, many years.
Yeah, well, that's fine. Broken legs are not contagious. This is a contagion where we need accurate information. That's one of the frustrations Doug Fortis had about inaccuracy of reporting. And I share Don Sanderson's and Dr. Farger's concern that this is not acceptable. And they've made it quite clear. And I think maybe the townships communicated with the health unit and ratified that.
Thank you. Councillor Coles, Ward 2.
Okay, yeah, it was a busy couple of weeks for me. In addition to the report that we have enclosed that Rod and the mayor and I participated in, I was also at the virtual broadband conference on the 8th and 9th with speakers and attendees from across Canada. There was about 300 people attending this virtual conference. And most interesting, I guess, one of the speakers, at one point, we couldn't hear her or see her. Everybody's working from home. This is somebody who was very knowledgeable on the subject matter, but for whatever, we couldn't, she had to delete her video so we could continue the presentation. Interesting when we're dealing with internet, the things that come up. One of the interesting things, I guess, the most interesting thing was that everybody, literally everyone on the conference was in the same boat. We all have the same issues. We're not unique in this. Rural Canada is all suffering from the same thing. I recently had a friend from Thornhill complain about his reception, and I would have thought that in Thornhill reception would have been pretty good, but it's not. So I guess the thing that we were urged to do is to work regionally and ultimately probably own our own backbone infrastructure. That was kind of one of the messages. Also, though, in looking ahead, and right now, if you've heard the messages coming from Tesla, Elon Musk, he's launching satellites, which are going to be low Earth orbit satellites, which they're saying may be the future of broadband internet, and possibly the use of optical satellite communication, which will even make that, will replace fiber optics. That's the possibility. All these things are out there, and the satellite issue is months away right now in Canada, so who knows where that's going to go. Also, on the 8th, there was a meeting, and that's a meeting where everybody's anxious. All the businesses are anxious about opening back up, and we cannot wait. That was, the message came loud and clear. The sooner we can open up, the better for the business world. Now, nobody wants to risk health and life and death for that. I was at this morning at a Belvedere Finance Committee meeting. And Belvedere just got a gold star from the province for the way they're managing their residents in terms of they literally now have no critical incidents, nothing out of the ordinary, and they've yet to have a COVID case. They're doing testing. About every 2 weeks, they test every resident and every employee. So they know factually that they're disease-free. We're currently working through a forecasting model at Belvedere to, because of the issues of COVID, which have cost more, to ensure that we're not surprised at the year end with the position that we're being put in. However, most of the COVID issues, related issues, are being supported by the province financially. So that's good news. Now, my last item is a little bit unusual, but at our last meeting, when it came to cottage rentals, statement about cottage rentals, which came back to haunt me. And I had a previous conversation with one of the OLRA board members, and I misunderstood what I've been told. So in fact, I will publicly retract the statement that I made, and hope that that's acceptable, and apologize. That if I said something in error, the intent was not to do harm. It was that I had misunderstood what I had been told. So I retract, and we'll go forward from there. Thank you.
Councillor Moffat.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Coles. I did see that, so I'm glad. It hasn't been as busy as what I anticipated over the last couple of weeks. I think in the last meeting we had with the museum, similar to what Councillor talked about, was opening about the libraries. We had an extensive discussion on about opening the museum in Parry Sound. So that's, moving forward. A number of calls, COVID related, in terms of beaches, washrooms, and such. And I've had some discussions with Dominique on that, and relayed to the resident that we're following public health authorities, and we are doing, and we're not only the ones doing this, so don't think this is just here. The largest amount of my time over the last couple of weeks, and you may or may not have seen, but we launched, I'm the co-chair of the ICECAP, which is on greenhouse gas emissions. And we launched a carbon calculator to calculate what the carbon emissions are in the region. And it went out late last week. I've had a discussion with JJ and Dominique. Dominique is the second on this committee with me about how we can push this forward. And we're working with Georgian Bay Biosphere to do a much harder, better launch in the upcoming weeks or months to get a communication plan out. So we will have something more to say on that, but that certainly has consumed a lot of time to make sure that we're getting the right messages out. The residents, we want to make sure that they realize, the importance of it, and what we're hopeful that they're going to do is complete the information to be able to, this is the year to collect the information before we decide on plans, hopefully that we will start up in 2021. So that's pretty much been the last 2 weeks. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I will just briefly, some of what's been messaged already. June 5th, I did the regional broadband discussion paper that has led to what's in today's package. We've got another meeting tomorrow, and I think you'll see some more information for the next agenda package. June 9th, we had an airport commission meeting, and I can report that the inquiries on the new lots are picking up. I don't know whether it's weather related or people kind of sighing a breath of relief after COVID, but the inquiries are frankly going wild for Neil on the property. So that's a good sign. Then, as Art mentioned, the 8th and 9th were my first virtual convention, and 300 people. There were actually people there from all over the world. I was able to reconnect on their chat boxes with several of the people I met in North Bay, and you'll see some recommendations coming out of them. You are going to see probably a resolution coming forward at the 18th meeting at the Archipelago to allocate significant funds to building broadband backbone for Archipelago. And I've been included in those discussions because I believe that all backbone stuff needs to be regional, not township specific. On the 10th, Michelle and I participated to help go over the presentation that you're going to see from KPMG at the special council meeting on June 23rd. There'll be both an open and closed part of that. That's the special meeting we set. And then this morning we kicked off the OP steering committee. And I think it was useful, and there'll be some meeting summary notes coming out with the launch of the website, hopefully tomorrow. So it's been very busy, and there is a new phrase, and that is being zoomed out. When you spend 7 hours, 2 days in a row in front of your computer, it's a long haul. Anyways, Michelle, do you want to go over what your new hat has been keeping you busy with?
Yeah, it's been really busy, but I'm not quite sure what I was doing. I just know it's really busy. We did meet with the health unit and the Rossville Farmers Market manager and board to talk about how we could get the market open this summer. There's all kinds of rules and regulations. We're hopeful that they'll be able to open at least for their first market on the 26th. Not exactly sure yet, but we're still working on it. I attended the Airport Commission and the C of A Zoom meeting. I've been working with the library CEO to facilitate their curbside pickup service. And as Ann mentioned, we went over the KPMG presentation with Oscar that will be at the council meeting next Tuesday. We've also started discussing the reopening of the main office and some of the things that we're going to have to do to be able to do that. So that's kind of in the beginning stages, and we're starting to make plans.
And I'd just like to reiterate that staff has been wonderful. There is still a lot of uncertainty in the staff, and COVID adds a whole nother layer of uncertainty because we get an email, seems to be at 5:30 or 6:30 most days, to tell us that something's opening tomorrow. And that's a somersault for staff because it usually involves signage and cleaning and everything else. So the staff has been outstanding, and we have to say thank you to everybody at every level for what they're doing to keep our services going.
Mayor, sorry, didn't hear the last item from Michelle.
Well, they're starting to discuss the opening of the municipal offices.
Yeah, and then there was something else, I thought.
No, that was the last item.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby receive the correspondence as presented on the agenda and the addendum for June 15th, 2020 meeting of Council. Could I have a motion by Ward 6?
I so move.
Thank you. Seconded by Ward 1.
I'll second that.
All in favor to receive correspondence? Thank you. And that's carried. Now we move into close. I don't need to read the whole list, do I? You have to read the whole. I have to read the whole list? Oh boy. Okay. This is a long motion. That the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby proceed to a closed meeting at 6:33 p.m. in order to address matters pertaining to personal matters about identifiable individuals, including municipal or local board employees, human resources matters, labor relations or employee negotiations, human resources matters, a position, plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local board, human resources matter, litigation and potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board, human resources matters, correspondence from Mark Kemmerer, zoning bylaw amendment application number R 2019-0017-H, Hebert decision, alleged contraventions, Seguin Marina, alleged non-conforming use of 96 Goddard Crescent, Hall Construction, Hall Quarries on Turtle Lake Road, advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, human resources matters, correspondence from Mark Kemmerer, zoning bylaw amendment application R 2019-0017H, Hebert decision, Hall Construction, Hall Quarries, Turtle Lake Road. A trade secret or scientific, technical, commercial, financial, or labor relations information supplied in confidence to the municipality or local board, which, if disclosed, could reasonably be expected to prejudice significantly the competitive position or interfere significantly with the contractual or other negotiations of a person, group of persons, or organization. That's the RFP for the provision of Integrity Commissioner services. Could I have a motion to move into closed from Ward 2?
Madam Mayor? Madam Mayor?
Yes?
Could I request a 5-minute bathroom break, or would that be reasonable?
Let us get this motion on the and
Yeah.
pass, move into closed, and then we'll consider it, okay? Could I have a
Thank you.
motion from Ward 2?
I so move.
And seconded by Ward 3?
Second?
Thank you. All in favor? Thank you. Okay, the time right now is 6:35.